I'm Scott Fishman,
I'm John Dwoskin.
and this is the 7-Minute Salesman.
Welcome, everybody. Hey, Fish.
Hey, John, what's going on?
Not much. I'm really excited for today's episode because you sent me a headliner audio video. I think it was yesterday, and I thought the message was so spot on. You sounded great in it as well.
Well, thanks.
And the message was spot on for where we are. I think it just in general always, but where we are right now, it is so. It's so relevant, and it was all based on the mirror glass concept that I know you've been working with your team on. And so I thought, I didn't think, but we thought, let's dive into it. And I want you to share it because it was great. I loved every word of it. So take it away.
Thank you, man. So, folks, this is a concept that was broken down in a book that I've been reading called Winning with Accountability. And it really is. It just breaks down accountability in such a great way where in the past, I think I might have had some bad leaders that when they said they're going to hold you accountable, it just felt like punishment. It always felt like you were going to be in trouble rather than just being held accountable to any sort of goal that you have. And in this chapter, they break down something that comes from a book that, John, you actually read the book, Good to Great, right?
Yeah, and it is great. Good to great is great.
Did it start good or was it great in the beginning?
Well, I'll tell you, it was great, but I didn't remember this concept from the book. I read it a long time ago. I didn't remember. So I was so grateful that you sent it over because it's something that I feel like I should absolutely be talking about with clients and everybody within companies right now. So, but you got it from a book that you're reading.
Right. It was the book that I'm reading, Winning with Accountability, is actually quoting the book Good to Great. So it's like I'm quoting a book that's quoting a book, like that old Victor Victoria. It's playing a man who's playing a woman playing a man. It might have been the opposite way. I don't remember. But anyway, this mirror glass concept is pretty cool. And I think it's really timely and relevant with what we're going through a lot right now with people being under a lot of stress. People figuring out new frontiers, people figuring out the new now that we've talked about. And so basically what this concept
Well, can I add one thing? One thing on that? Because I think one of the things it also does is, and I'm seeing this as I'm coaching a lot of companies, you have, we're in, what are we in, Fish? Our fifth week, maybe, in working from home and more or less, give or take 4th or 5th week. The companies who have values on their wall and are living them, it is very obvious to the people working within the walls of those companies, and companies who have values on their walls and aren't living them is also very obvious. And the leadership, sometimes is looking at it with the wrong colored lenses.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Sure. I just wanted to point that out, that hopefully this will wake people up who are not living the values that are on the wall, especially in today's marketplace.
I love it because you know what? You're not with the values being on the wall, so to speak. And in most cases, they really are kind of on the wall. When we're working from home, they're no longer on the wall. Like you've got other things on your wall at your house. You don't have the same, you're not walking into the same environment. So it is important to make sure that we're constantly reiterating this stuff, constantly bringing culture up, constantly just speaking to the core fundamentals of our companies. And so this concept from Good to Great, the mirror glass concept, it takes into account like the cop shows. They've got they bring the perpetrator in for an interrogation or whatever, and there's a mirror on the wall that is see-through glass on the other side. So it's like two-way glass, a two-way mirror. And what we do as leaders and what we do in business a lot of times is we are on the wrong side of the glass in different situations. And what I mean by that, a lot of times when there's things that aren't going well, we end up, we can point to other people and say, hey, you didn't do your job, right? We can point to other people and say, it wasn't my fault. So we're looking through the glass at that time. And when things do go well, we tend to look at the mirror and we say, look at me, I'm great. Look at all of this great job I'm doing. And that's what a poor leader does. That's what a weak leader does. A strong leader is someone who, when things are going well, they're going to look through that glass and say, John, we did good because of you.
Yeah.
You're the reason for the success. It's not me. It's not me as a leader. And when things don't go well, it's me saying, how could I have done this better? How could I have helped John? How could I have better trained him in this situation? Because it's on me.
Yeah.
I am in charge.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So, but let's talk about it, Fish, because you go into even more detail when you're diving into it, and you're talking about like questions people should be asking themselves, and to me, I just want to kind of dive in here. I mean, this is about pure, intense awareness, right? This is about raising your own internal awareness of what you are doing on a daily basis, how you walk, how you talk, how you interact, how you lead. And it's not just the CEOs, it's every person in leadership, it's every manager, and frankly, it's every person within a company, because we all inspire other people. And so this is a wake-up call. That's why I love this mirror glass concept. It's a wake-up call to look within if something isn't going right. It's about taking, I can't remember who wrote the book, Extreme Ownership. Do you remember who wrote?
Jocko Willink.
Oh, yeah, Jocko. Right. Okay, couldn't think of it. Yeah, his book is incredible. And this is about not pointing all the fingers, but pointing it back at yourself. And
Yeah.
so you in your review, you talked about questions and really things that raise the mindset and the level of awareness. Can you just kind of talk about that?
Absolutely. Well, the questions, I mean, you and I have actually done an episode very similar to this concept as well. We talked about taking ownership. I think that it was called Own Your Shit and Take Ownership, or Take Ownership and Own Your Shit. And we've discussed this in the past, like, what could I have done better? And there's so many things that we can ask ourselves, questions such as, when things don't go well, who could I have gotten involved sooner?
Yeah.
What could I have done before to help John or whoever is working with me better prepare? How could I have trained my client to actually do better? How could I put them in a better position? And something that comes up with me a lot, and this I read this in another book, and for the life of me, I'm forgetting the name. It's funny how we do that a lot, right? I hope people don't do that with our books. They probably do. But this other concept that ties right into it is we create those monster clients when we have them sometimes. Like, we have a very needy client, and it's like, well, let's look at the root of why someone is needy. Or we have a very needy employee. Let's look at the root of why they're needy. A lot of times we have a needy employee or a team member because we did everything for them in the beginning because it made us feel good. So we went ahead and we did for them. We didn't actually teach them how to fish. We fished for them and gave them a fish. So every time they're hungry now, they want us to get them a fish. They don't know how to fish, and eventually we're going to get sick of it. And at that point, when we're like, John, listen, man, you come to me for a fish all the time. I want to teach you how to do it. Then you're like, dude, you've done it for me every time. Why didn't you do this for me before? And that's when the team member or the client resents you for not doing for them, because you always have.
Yeah. You know what else I think, Fish, and I see this a lot in companies, and I'm sure you do too, is a lot of times leaders don't really know their people. I mean, truly know their people. And I think this is something that you and I are really great at, is understanding what drives other people, individually as individuals. And a lot of times people don't know. When I go into companies and I ask people, hey, what drives each of the people you manage? They say, I don't even understand the question, what you're asking me. And so it's about, in your example too, about the fish, like sometimes people don't teach people how to fish and just show them and just give it to them because they're not invested in learning and taking the extra minute to learn the person, learn how the person learns, taking a moment out of their day to build relationship capital with that person, and where they have a moment where they could really grow the relationship. They don't, because they're just moving on to the next thing. And I think that's one thing that hopefully we see out of COVID evolve is people not taking people for granted and really cherishing the moments of building relationships with them, because now they have to, because everybody's remote.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're so right.
I was, I don't even remember where I heard this, but somebody was talking about it, and I Googled it, how the 1960 Nixon-Kennedy debates changed the world. Oh, I do remember. I was watching a Simon Sinek thing, and he was talking about how the reason it changed the world is because up until 1960, the debates were on the radio. And in 1960, the people who listened to the debates said that Nixon won, but the people who watched the debates said that Kennedy won. Because the people who watched it could see the sweat come off Nixon's forehead, and he looked pale, and Kennedy just held himself differently. And so talking to somebody over the phone is a lot different than seeing them face to face. And right now in today's world, we got to do both via video technology and be on the phone with them, getting to know them, standing up, understanding radical humility where we failed as a leader and how we can be a better leader tomorrow.
You're so right. And you're right. Everything we're doing now, things that we were doing on the phone before, we're now doing on video, just to, even get that human interaction.
Yeah.
I've had a couple meetings recently where it's like, I probably would have been more comfortable on the phone, or some people that I was having the meeting with might have been more comfortable because I was actually able to read their eyes a little bit better in the call.
Right.
And that gave me not really a leg up. I don't want to say that, but it gave me more insight into that call and conversation for sure.
Yeah. Well, think about this podcast, right? So we've done, this is what, number 115, 116. We do them. We used to do them in person, and then I got the stuff at my house. So we do them using Zoom, but we're always face to face.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, I know we talk about this. I don't know if we ever talked about this on the show, but we just kind of pick a topic. We don't really prepare much else. We'll kind of come up with some bullet points occasionally, but we just know what the topic is, and then we riff off of each other. But I don't think we could do that as well if we were just on the phone.
No, definitely not. And knowing myself, I would be interrupting you way more if we were just on the phone. If there was no visual cues, that's one of my dirty habits. But I think you're so right.
But go back to, I'd love to know what some of the feedback was from people that you sent this to, because I know you sent it to a lot of people.
Right.
And what was the reaction to it? Because it's so inspiring. And when the right person when the person hears it with the right ears, it can't help but help you grow an area that you need to grow in.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, it was met with a ton of enthusiasm. People were excited to hear it. At the end of the day, this is something where pretty much every one of my coworkers has read this book recently.
Yeah.
So to me, it was just something where it was like, you know what, this makes sense right now. I remember reading it a couple weeks ago. I was like, let's circle back on it. So really all I'm doing in that video is just reading a chapter out of the book. I didn't actually, I kind of plagiarized it, I guess, because I was just reading it. It was a live reading by Scott Fishman, but it was very good. And it really did bring to the forefront something that I'm seeing with the fact that being in a B2B business where my clients are B2C, and they're literally there's a very thin membrane between them and their client.
Yeah.
And a very thin membrane between us. There's not like a giant buffer. We're pretty much one symbiotic relationship. And I can see the stress levels going up, and I can see where they might be getting blamed for something. So in turn, they're blaming me for something. And then I'm like, well, it's your fault. And I'm throwing it back on them. And then they really can't throw it back on their client without looking like a total ass. So that it's just this back and forth. So it's like, hold on, let's all take a step back. It's no one's fault. We're all on the same team. Let's just fix it. But instead, we were all, because of the high stress levels, because business is different right now, we're not used to it. Everyone's kind of throwing it back and forth with the mirror instead of just letting everything flow through the glass.
Yeah. It's great. Well said. I just want to highlight one thing too. I know you said earlier, well, you read it from a book, blah, 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 that everybody's reading. But part of leadership is saying, hey, we read this book, but this is of this book, this week, this day, this is what's most relevant for us to focus on.
Yeah.
And point that out and what that, and then re-articulate what something even they've read even a week ago means to them today, means to the clients today. And that to me is great leadership. So well done.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I don't see enough. I think more leaders need to do that. They need to say, because a lot of times people say, well, we read that in a book a month ago or 2 months ago, and they should already know that. Well, okay, maybe they did know it, but this is how they need to interpret it today.
Right.
And that's a wise leader. So kudos to you, Fish.
Well, thanks, man. The way I see it is almost like being a football coach, right? We all know the plays, but not every play is timely at every, it doesn't, not every situation calls for every play.
Right.
So it's like, all right, we're going to run a passing play, Hail Mary right here, because it's like 1 second left and we're down by 3. We got to do something.
Right. And every team needs a coach in real time.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean,
very cool.
That was a great episode. That was great. That was great content. I appreciate you sharing that with me, because it was something I needed a reminder of something that I had read. So thanks, Fish.
John, you're very welcome. Thank you for thanking me, and thank you for finding it relevant. Thank you for getting something out of it, because that's fulfilling for me. And John, on that note, let's thank our listeners for tuning in yet again. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. Now, no excuses. It's time to put everything you listen to into action. Stop bullshitting yourself. Stop lying to yourself. Stop listening and doing nothing with this information. Take this information, implement it into your day, kick some ass, grow your business, grow your sales, make more money, have more fun, have a better life, period, the end.
What he said.